you sleep better now. So what were some of the stops along the way?
Well, after I did the sleep study, my doctor prescribed low-dose doxepin, which will be coming out now as a new sleeping pill, Silenor. He had licensed it to the pharmaceutical company. So that just did not work for me. And then he was a little disappointed by that. So he then had me go to see a cognitive behavioral therapist, and that's where you're supposed to do the sleep diaries. And every week I presented this woman with my sleep diary, which is every time you wake up, you jot it down, how long you're awake, and I mean if there's anything that's going to keep you up. You're sort of becoming the Samuel Pepys of sleep, So there you are. Am I getting it right? It's 1 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. Okay, let me write this down. And then she did some progressive relaxation exercises with me. And then, it's the sleep hygiene rules. If you're awake in the middle of the night, get out of bed and go and do something relaxing, like read a book. Well, for a writer, reading a book is not relaxing. It's just very anxiety-provoking. So that didn't work for me. And then I told the sleep doctor I was writing a book on sleep, and he told me that was a terrible idea and got upset with me. So I had to leave him, and then I had to leave the cognitive behavioral therapist because she worked with him. So I then moved on to hypnotherapy, which was quite fascinating, and I believe it can work because for 10 straight days I had the best sleep I've ever had in my life. I mean, I'd go to bed 8 hours, wake up, feel just wonderful. But then I just lost faith in him. I mean, I had an upsetting phone call with my mother. And because of that I took an Ambien, and then I broke my toe. And then I kept on associating the hypnotherapist with the broken toe. So I needed to move on. And then I did brain music therapy, which was, I could somehow, they wire you up, and then she was Russian, and then she sent your brain waves. It was something like out of a James Bond movie. She sent my brain waves to her colleague at the University of Moscow. So 3 weeks later, I get a disc with a picture of, I don't know, a little girl with notes coming out of her head, and it was my relaxing music and my activating music. Well, my relaxing music sounded strangely Russian. I mean, I'm not Russian, so I didn't know. It sounded like a dirge to me. It was very depressing. It didn't help me sleep. The activating music, however, was like drinking 10 cups of coffee. I mean, it really wired me. But I don't need to be wired. But I could see how somehow it was working. But then when I told her that the relaxing music, she said, well, maybe I needed to do a second disc, and I didn't want to do that. So then I went on, and I took a course, continuing medical education course with doctors in Las Vegas, of all places. And then I went to a patient-to-patient sleep conference in Minnesota, and then because when I figured this book could allow me to be a bit fanciful too. So when I was a little girl, I always used to think that if I saw a reindeer on Christmas, Santa would give me the gift of sleep. So my husband and I went off to Swedish Lapland to the Ice Hotel, primarily because there are more reindeer than people in Lapland, so I figured there would be a very good chance of seeing one on Christmas. And I did. And I went on this wild reindeer ride, and then we ate, well, I didn't, but then the guide cooked reindeer for Christmas, which was really awful.
Rudolph.
Yeah. And it really didn't help me sleep, but it was a great adventure. And the guide, who's a Sami, who's one of the Aboriginal people of Lapland, I thought it was interesting because up there with the polar nights, they only have light for 3 hours a day, and then during the midnight sun, it's bright almost all day and night long. So I was asking him what sleeping conditions were like that, and for him it was, I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but it's just, you sleep in rhythm with nature. When it's dark a lot, you sleep maybe 10 hours. When it's light, maybe only 4 or 5 hours. So that was a lot of fun, but in terms of giving me the gift of sleep, no. Mm-mm.
then you found meditation.
I did, around the corner, very conveniently.
And you were almost right kicking and screaming into
Well,
it.
I don't know. I got the wrong idea about what meditation was. I sort of thought it was like writing, which is so not like writing. But I figured since I sit in a chair all day long and, I'm by myself, that wasn't this like meditation. But, I learned that it wasn't. And I had a really wonderful teacher. And even though there was a mouse in the class that kept on running out and interrupting people's time, it was very helpful to me. That's not to say that it was easy, and I would be disingenuous to say that, I got it and within one day I was meditating and sleeping perfectly, because I took I took the class for about 9 months and worked up from about 5 minutes a day to 20 minutes. But, certainly stress and anxiety have a lot to do with insomnia. And I found that it definitely helped me control anxiety. And during a very long period, it was quite successful for me. And I believe it still will be successful once, I stop going through this concentrated talking about the book.
Well, may you have a good night's sleep.
Thank you so much.
The book is Wide Awake, a memoir of insomnia. I've been speaking with the author, Patricia Morrisroe, and Wide Awake is published by Spiegel and Grau, distributed in Canada by Random House.